Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very inspiring show coming right up with special guest Jason-Schechterle, and he's here today to share with us his book, Burning Shield. Growing up, Jason had one dream: to serve as a Phoenix police officer. After serving 4 years in the Air Force, at the age of 26, Jason achieved his goal to work on the streets of Phoenix as a rookie police officer. Then, only 14 months into what was supposed to be a lifelong career, Jason's life took an unexpected, dramatic, and at the time, tragic turn. Today, Jason's here to share with us his story and his book, Burning Shield. So let's welcome to the show, Jason-Schechterle.
Thank you so much for having me.
You know, Jason, I have to tell you, it is such an honor to talk with you and to talk with you about your story. My goodness, your life is about being a hero, and you've been a hero to so many people and continue to do that to this day. I am just so honored we get to spend this time together.
Well, I appreciate that. I definitely did not intend for life to go this way, as most people out there can relate to wherever they might be right now. You can always look back 5, 10, 20 years for some of us and think, wow, I would have never imagined this is where I'd be. And, you know, of course, the term hero is very humbling. It's been an interesting life, an interesting journey, but every minute's been worth it.
So why don't you take us to your life before the accident? Like, what inspired you to become a police officer?
Well, it was something that was in the back of my mind all the way back to high school. Just infatuated with that career, and I didn't really give it a lot of thought, but I was called to serve. I spent a very short time in college before deciding to join the United States Air Force. Spent 4 wonderful years doing that. Spent some time in Korea, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. A lot of great structure and discipline in my life. And I came home, and that's when I met, I'd only been home about 4 days, and I met my wife, Susie, and we got married a few years later, and then also had a couple of kids. And then in 1999, I had a really good job with one of our power companies here in the valley where I live. And then on March 26th of 1999, the Phoenix Police Department lost an officer named Mark Atkinson in the line of duty. And it had that profound impact on me where I knew that it was my calling. And so I went right away and applied for the job and was blessed and lucky enough to be given the opportunity and started the academy in September of 1999. It was the first graduating class of 2000.
Oh my goodness. I mean, what a great career you've had. And again, you know, today being the 4th of July, I couldn't think of a better time to talk about not just your life, but your book as well, Burning Shield. And so why don't you take us back to the night of the accident? What happened? Because I know there's some things you remember and some things not so much.
Yeah, there's plenty I remember, and I was lucky enough to put the rest of the pieces together with extensive conversations with all the people involved, whom I'm, still very close to. Obviously, owe my life to just so many people. But it was a pretty quiet day. I started work at 3 in the afternoon. I was supposed to work until 1 o'clock in the morning, and it just wasn't a whole lot going on. I had a couple of pretty boring calls, and about 11:30 that night, I answered up for an emergency call that was not in my area of responsibility, but the officers in that area were busy at the time, so I took the call, and as I was heading to the scene, I came upon a red light at one of our freeway overpasses and needed to come to a brief stop just to make sure that people getting on and off the freeway would yield to my emergency vehicle. You can't just go blowing through a red light but it only takes a second and a half to clear an intersection. And just as I was going to proceed, my patrol car was struck from behind by a taxi cab, and the driver was suffering an epileptic seizure. He was doing over 100 miles an hour when he ran into me. And at that kind of speed, that impact, the way that my car was designed with the gas tank, these Ford Crown Victorias on the outside of the frame of the car, it just was the recipe for disaster. And the car burst into flames, trapping me inside. I traveled about 270 feet through the intersection. I was knocked unconscious, of course, at that speed, that violent of a collision. There's no way that you're not going to be rattled around enough or be in shock enough to not shut down. So I don't have any recollection of that, but I do know that I came to stop about 50 feet from a fire truck. Just a miracle that defies explanation that there's a fire truck in my intersection at the moment I needed them most. And, I really feel for these individuals to have that happen right in front of them. Most time, first responders know where they're headed. They know some of the details of the call. And here this crew is just trying to make a turn at an intersection, and the world literally blew up right in front of them. But they were able to remember their calling and go to work for me, and along with a couple of other police officers that arrived on scene very quickly, they got me out of the car in about 90 seconds. And another miracle, I was 2.5 miles away from what I always say is the best burn center in the United States, Maricopa County Hospital, and I was on their trauma table in less than 8 minutes and given a fighting chance.
Oh my God, your story is so profound, but I think it also provides so much hope for people, because as people are going through difficult times, you weren't expected to survive this, and you really persisted.
Yes, the doctors told my family there was no way I was going to survive the burns. 43% of my body, my neck, head, and face were 4th degree, which is something I had never heard. I thought 3rd degree was the worst burns you can have. And 4th degree means it's down the last layers of muscle into the bone. I was placed into a medically induced coma just so that I could remain quiet, still, pain-free. They knew I was facing so many surgeries, and it was definitely an uphill battle for many, many months. 2.5 months in a coma, 5 months in the hospital, countless surgeries, and then once they realized I would survive, the amount of therapy it took I was completely blind. I lost half my fingers to amputation, and I come home to, 2 young kids that their lives have been completely upended. A 7-year-old daughter who, she understood the severity of the accident, but was still pretty intimidated. I had a young son who turned 3 when I was in a coma, and he didn't even recognize me, didn't believe I was his father. So just emotionally, mentally, physically, it was definitely an adversity that I had never experienced or had any way to really prepare for.
I'm just amazed. I don't think that there's a way that anyone can prepare for this type of tragedy or this type of an event. And, it hit you in so many different ways, mind, body, spirit. You're just bombarded all at once.
Yeah, it was kind of all at the same time. And what I just remember most is just so many people were there by my side. And I recognized right away that part of being in the coma for so long was that these people were still there, and I owed it to them to at least try and fight, try and do something. And because they stuck by me for all that time, and then if I would have just woken up and given up, after that. And there were plenty of days I wanted to. I mean, there were plenty of dark days for sure that I had a very difficult time mentally and emotionally. But, once you start fighting, one of the bigger things for me was having my own accountability instead of just blaming the person that hit me, instead of thinking of it as being in the wrong place at the wrong time or how unlucky, why me. I didn't think of any of those things. What I thought of is, I made the decision to become a police officer. I chose to answer up for a call that I really had no business answering up for. And when you have that accountability, that no matter where you're at in life, you had some hand in that. You made some choices along the way that got you to where you're at. That brought a lot of peace and serenity that I needed to accept what had happened and to move on with that fight. And then once the positive momentum starts going, it's pretty amazing. It's just unstoppable. I'm getting stronger every day through therapy. I was blessed enough to have a career that gave me some opportunities that, it's humbling, but other people don't get them. I got to carry the Olympic torch in January of 2002 when it was headed to Salt Lake City. I met the President of the United States. We had another child 18 months after the accident. And you talk about perspective. Now it's not about getting me out of a car or getting me through one or two surgeries. We're now talking about an entire life that shouldn't even exist. And if he grows up to have 3 or 4 children and they grow up to have 3 or 4 children, it can have no logical end. It's just a beautiful perspective to have. That child now is almost 18 years old, going to be a senior in high school next year. And to look at him every day, it just keeps that smile on my face. I ended up going back to work and doing a job that I loved so much as a homicide detective. So it was just nothing but good upon good upon good. Of course, mixed in with a ton of surgeries, a ton of pain, but our minds are a beautiful thing as far as we tend to forget a lot of the bad as the years go by, and we remember mostly the good.
So what has recovery been like for you? Because it seems like it's an ongoing journey in many cases.
Yeah, it'll be a lifelong journey just because the appearance that I have, and as I travel the country as a public speaker, I'm going through airports, I'm getting in and out of Ubers, restaurants, hotels, and of course I will always deal with being stared at and things like that. My eyesight is probably my biggest adversity. I spent 9 months completely blind. The doctors did a wonderful job getting a lot of my eyesight back so that I could drive again. I could return to work. And as the years have gone by, that has deteriorated. Pretty much lost sight in my right eye, and my left eye I could still see good enough to. I drive during the daytime, especially where I live. I'm very familiar with the roads, but there will always be that adversity. But it's just normal to me. That's just who I am. It's part of my life. It's my physical makeup. When I look in the mirror, it's not shocking to me. It's not even really a reminder of what happened. It's just who I am. And, again, it's been more than 19 years. So the recovery period is just kind of an ongoing everyday thing. And you got to try to maintain some perspective, maintain some desire to be inspired every day, something to move you forward. And each day it's something a little bit different. And it works different for all of us. I know what works for me. So depending on where I am emotionally or mentally, I can go to a place to help get me out of that. And that's the thing that I try to encourage other people is find what works for you, what moves you in a positive direction, because you really don't have a choice. You can either choose to overcome your adversity and make the most of this precious life that we get to live. And we have to live our own story. You don't live somebody else's. You live yours. So whatever works for you, whatever you're grateful for each and every day, if you can focus on those, it goes a long way in whatever you're recovering from.
You have such a beautiful, positive attitude in regards to life. I found that really impressive. Just, listening to different shows you've done and reading your book and viewing your website. What do you think? Where do you think that comes from?
Oh, wow. I really do. I've been asked that so many times, and looking back, it kind of makes me smile because I was one of the luckiest people. Up until I was 28 years old, I had never even faced a death in my family. All four of my grandparents were alive and married. My parents were healthy and happily married. My siblings had great careers going. I had never faced really any type of adversity. Broke a few bones playing sports growing up and things like that, but no way to be prepared for this type of life change. So I don't know where it comes from. I just, as I went through the days, I was able to be vulnerable and allow other people to take care of me. I was able to swallow some pride and understand that, again, it's not why me, it's why not me. And now I've got to make something of this. I owe that to especially my kids. Being a father, there's nothing bigger than that to me. And it wasn't their fault. They didn't ask for this. And I'm still their father. I'm still their dad. And I owe it to them to try and get better and help them have the best lives they can to still raise them. So that's what I attribute it to is realizing the strength that I did have, how bright my human spirit could shine after going through this. And the beautiful thing about the human spirit is no matter who we are, it doesn't matter your age, your race, your gender, how much money you have in the bank. The one thing that we truly are created equal on is our human spirit. It is designed to take you away from risk and straight toward reward if you'll just let it soar. It's a beautiful thing. It's a powerful thing. And that's what I think about most, is just how beautiful the fire inside has to burn brighter than the ones that surround us. And I've been able to allow that to take place for me.
Oh, you're truly an inspiration. I'm just in awe, not only of your story, but, your life as you've built going forward and the message that you're sharing, because, you're right. Everyone goes through adversity and we go through challenges and difficult times, but it's what we make of it and our attitude that really determines how we end up.
It really is. Your attitude is everything, and it's the most powerful tool. It's the most powerful resource that you have. Your mindset is everything. Your perspective is everything. It's completely going to dictate how you go about putting forth the effort in life that you do, which direction you're going to go. And you're not always going to win the battles that you're going through. But I'm a big believer in meeting yourself where you are. If you're having, I don't like to use the term good days, bad days, or all these adjectives that people, when you say them out loud, it gives it a little too much life and emphasis to say, oh, I'm really struggling today, or I'm really battling this, or this is really challenging. Yes, while that is all true. It's just more important to realize, we don't get to live in this little bubble of always feeling love and joy and success and enthusiasm. You will have days and moments where you're going to feel anxiety and fear and anger and shed tears, and that's okay too. It just means you're alive, and what a beautiful thing it is to feel what we are able to feel. The range of emotions is wild. There's hundreds of things that we're capable of feeling, and it's okay to feel those things in those moments, and knowing that they're gonna pass. When you're really happy, when things are going really good for you, it's not going to last forever, and it's a little disappointing. Well, we should also recognize that when we're feeling sad or angry or something bad is going on, that's not going to last forever either, and that should bring us some optimism and some motivation to, just keep going, just keep moving forward, and we're going to get past this. It's all just one equal kind of a emotional roller coaster that we're on within ourselves, and it makes life a lot more worth living when you just feel whatever you're feeling.
You have this quote, you probably know this, of course it's your website, but you've got this quote here that I really just love, and it's, "Don't let the pain of today blind you from the promise of tomorrow." And how true is that? How often do we let these pains kind of blind us from what can happen? Because, you've had a lot of miracles happen in your life.
Oh, yeah, I've had a ton of miracles, and most of them are too big to answer. How did that happen? It's other questions that I get asked all the time, and some things are just too big. I can't answer why I had a fire truck in my intersection, but I do know that a lot of other people do not get that miracle. They don't have that fortune. They don't have that luck, and I've never once taken that for granted. All I can do is try to live life the best way that I can and make the most of it. I do know from experience that tomorrow could be worth it. Whatever you're going through today, it could be worth it. You just gotta, keep writing your story, keep turning the page, and just see what's next. So that's kind of where that statement comes from.
Well, I know a lot of Fortune 500 companies have you come out and talk to their people. What are some of the common keynote speeches that you give, or some of the topics that they really want you to touch on?
I think what they want me to touch on most is to talk about what we were discussing. Life is 10% what happens to you. It's 90% how you react to it. And then to just share my story in the most raw, vulnerable way that I can. I think that everybody that I talk to in an audience, they can relate to it in some way. They've had something happen to them. It might not look like mine. Not everybody catches on fire. Not everybody looks the way that I do, but that's not the important part. We all have our own stories, and I think sometimes people just need a little bit of perspective. They want to hear a good story. When I share my story, of course, there's going to be a lot of lows, a lot of dark moments. I watch people shed a lot of tears as I go through certain parts, but there's also a lot of joy. We laugh a lot. There's been so much humor, which is very important to me. Nothing in this world will make you feel the way a smile or laughter does instantaneously. It's better than any drug that has ever been created. So I make sure that I, along with the audience, laughs a lot. And I think that's what these meeting planners and the event planners and the people in the audience want the most, is just for somebody to stand up there and be honest and to be real and share their story. And then it's about choices. You can leave that room and take little bits and pieces of my story and see how it relates to you, and it might give you a little desire to make something out of today. Leave this day a little better than you found it. It's a great goal to have every day, and understand that, well, you know what, I got to do it again tomorrow. I got to find a new way to do it, but it keeps you motivated. It keeps you moving, and again, it's just simply worth it.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? I mean, when we look, we listen to your story. I mean, everyone has scars, and with your story, it really helps people to kind of, look at the possibilities of just what can happen for if you have a positive outlook on life and what you're looking for in life, and just keep putting one foot in front of the other. I mean, I think the miracles show up when we look at life that way.
They really do. I mean, it's often said that you create your own luck, or, you can put all these cliches on things, but it's very true. If you have a good attitude, a good mindset, then good things are going to happen. If you believe you can or believe you can't, you're going to be right every time. It's, people often say, oh, that's such a cliche. Well, there's a reason that cliches exist. It's because they're powerful. They mean something. I would love to say something in one of my speeches that 100 years from now, people are still repeating. I believe very much in these little anecdotal sayings, because they do give us the perspective and the reminders of what we need to get through this. It's all in our mindset, and I just believe so strongly in that. Sometimes the most beautiful, inspirational things in life are going to disguise themselves as complete devastation. You just got to be patient and try your best to get through it. Hopefully you have a nice long life. All of us, we're not all that lucky, but if you're lucky enough to live a long life, you are going to have some really rough times. You're going to lose people that you love. You might go through a divorce. You might go through some serious financial setbacks. All of us right now, today, collectively, are facing a similar adversity with this COVID pandemic. It has greatly changed my life. I mean, I've basically lost my career and my income because I can't travel. I can't give speeches. They can't put 500 people into an auditorium. It has directly affected my young son's baseball recruiting and his opportunities to play baseball in college. There's a lot of things that I could be very angry and very down about, but everybody's going through something with it. Some people have lost their lives. Some people have lost a lot more than I have, and that keeps the perspective for me, but then to recognize, but I'm living my life, not theirs. So how does it affect me, and how am I going to get through this? As a former police officer right now, I'm, you see on TV the protests and the riots and the hatred, and you want so bad to be a positive part of that change, and trying to figure out how I'm going to best go about that. It kind of renews my motivation and my energy to do more good when I can, even though right now, I mean, let's just be honest, right now sucks with this quarantine and
yes, it does.
with what we're going through. There's no denying that, and there's no point in sugarcoating it. It sucks, and it's difficult, and it's having a great effect on a lot of people, whether it's causing people to be very depressed. I know that people have committed suicide over it. I know people are getting divorced over it. You've lost your jobs. Finances are lower. There's a lot to this, and we don't know if there's an end in sight, but it's completely out of our control. Whatever politicians are telling us to do, whatever the doctors are telling us to do. And so while it would be easy to sit and stare at the news and just be like, oh man, this is so bad, and I just can't take it. I'm depressed, I'm angry. And I do feel those things for minutes a day, or maybe even for a few hours if I decide to focus on them. But then, you know what? What am I grateful for? Well, my family is still healthy. We're still here together in our house. My kids are safe. So I find what I can to be grateful for. And if and when we overcome this as a society, then I'll be back out there. My career will come back, and I still have my life to live. And we'll just look back and be like, you know what, 2020 wasn't so good. I look back and say 2001 wasn't the greatest year of my life, but I'm hopefully going to have 80 years. There's no reason I can't say that 3, 4, or 5 of those years weren't great. I mean, it's not realistic to think they're all going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting, this time, and I'm sure, your story really kind of reminds me of this too, is just, it really gives us a shift in perspective of what's really important in life. And I think we're getting a lot from this time in history as well.
Yeah, we are. And, it feels right now the world is, I shouldn't say the world, America is so divided right now with between the politics and all the stuff that's going on with law enforcement and racism and the fighting and the constant hatred. God, you can't even look at social media or the news right now, or you'll drive yourself crazy. And it's sad to see that. And then you add in the pandemic and the quarantine and the fear that goes along with that. But we will overcome all this. We will rise up and be better. It's guaranteed. But you kind of got to hit rock bottom before you have nowhere else to go but up. I know what my rock bottom was when I was first going through my burn injuries. And after that, it was just a straight up trajectory. And so now, while I don't consider this a personal rock bottom, it seems like we're, as a society, dangerously close to hitting rock bottom, or at least being in a place that I haven't been. I'm 47 years old. I never thought I would see the world in the way that it is right now. And it's sad and it's scary. And how are we going to overcome this? But I know that we will. And we will all be better for it if we choose to be. That's the most important thing. You have to make that choice. And that's the greatest power you have. You get to make your choice every day of your own free will. And to also remember, you're just not free of the consequences of those choices. So whatever choice you make, you accept whatever comes along with that and keep moving forward.
Well, Jason, I know we just kind of briefly brushed over your story. It's really well defined in Burning Shield. I think I have time for one more question here. Did you really, when you wrote your story and you had it out there, did you feel like it was really difficult going through all that and being so open about your life and your story?
No, I thought it was therapeutic, actually, to share the story in such detail. And when you read the book, you realize that it is my story, but I'm not really telling too much of it because I was out of it for so long in my recovery process. But you get the perspective of my wife or my kids or the firefighters or the police officers or my friends, my doctors. They all got a chance to share their stories and what they did and how it impacted their lives. And that's one of my favorite things is this is forever, this book. And to think that someday my grandkids will read it or other people will read it, and it's just out there now. The story is told the way that it should be. The author did a wonderful job. Now, the book came out in 2014, so a lot of things have happened since then in the past 6 years as far as how my life has changed with my kids growing. Lost my father a couple of years ago to cancer. Ironically, on the same date, he died on March 26th of 2017. So it was the 16th anniversary of my accident, and he passes away on that day of all days. There's 365 days in a year, and that's the one that he chooses. I'm like, and I remember being with him when he passed away, and for all the heartache and the sadness, I'm like, wow, I'm going to live in a world now without my hero, my dad. But I still had a smile thinking, but I had you for 44 years. Not a lot of people get that. And so I'm going to be grateful for that. And I did kind of give him a hard time for, really, today? Couldn't you have waited just one more day that not on our anniversary? But it was almost poetic in some ways. So a lot of things have happened since the book came out. But I am grateful for that book. I'm still humbled every time I see the cover of it, thinking, "Wow, that's your face on the cover of a book." I never would have thought when I was a kid that someday I'd have a book out there about me or my story. But I do love that the author, Landon Napoleon, just did an amazing job.
Yeah, he did a beautiful job with your story. Well, Jason, what do you want our listeners to take away from not just your story, but your book and the work that you do?
I just really want everybody to try and find something within them that gets them through the tough times. What are you grateful for? What do you want to do to try and make life the best it can be? And when you are going through those tough times, all those things we already talked about, don't let the pain of today blind you from the promise of tomorrow. It will get better. It always, always does. If you give it a chance and you just don't give up. And again, it is okay to shed tears. It's okay to be anxious and scared and angry. Those things are okay. Enjoy those as much as you do the good emotions, because you're just alive and you've got to feel these things. So just try to meet yourself where you are every day and find a way to leave today and eventually this life better than you found it. Because we're all headed to the same place. We get to live a life, but at some point it's going to come to an end. So be grateful for this opportunity and try to make the most of it. I certainly do every day. It's a very early start to the day. It's an early start to summer. I live in Phoenix, so it's 115 degrees here, and I can't wait to see how 2020 finishes up, because I think it's going to get better, and I'm going to make something of it. Something positive is going to come out of this year, and I'm determined to do that. And I hope everybody can find that determination within themselves.
What a great way to end this discussion. Jason, where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community and learn more about your book?
Well, the book, Burning Shield, is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. I have a website that is burningshield.com. I have a podcast that's called Bad Boys. We do it every week. I think yesterday was episode number 73, and I do it along with another wonderful guy who was a Phoenix police officer for 30 years, and we infuse a lot of humor, a lot of positivity, talk about a lot of serious subjects. You can easily find me on Instagram and Twitter, which I'm very active on. My last name, Schechterle, is once you spell it the right way, you'll have an easy time finding me. I answer my own emails. It's jason@burningshield.com. So I am very open and out there and very easy to connect with if anybody out there wants to.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate the opportunity.
It has been such an honor to spend this time with you, Jason, and to talk about your book, Burning Shield. And thank you from all of us for your service. If you'd like to connect with Jason, you can at burningshield.com for more information. His book, Burning Shield, is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And if they're sold out, just ask for them to order it. And of course, it's available on Kindle. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.